Functions, I can tell you, right? This is the most important part of JavaScript, because everything inside JavaScript revolves around functions only. Okay, so I would request everyone to understand this very in depth, and it is not like a one session discussion. We will require at least two or three or more sessions to discuss completely about the functions. And even the classes in JavaScript, right, are based on this only. There is a concept called constructor functions, which is all related to functions only, right? Okay, let me tell you. Okay, tell me, like, what all names have you heard about functions when it comes to JavaScript? Any names comes to your mind? Like, I'm sure you must have heard a lot of crazy names, right, in JavaScript. If anyone remembers, tell me please. What
Arrow,
different types of functions we have?
arrow functions,
Ar-
callback functions,
okay, arrow functions, right? Arrow functions, uh, callback functions. Great. What more?
normal function like function declaration.
Normal functions. You said function declaration. Let me write it here. Okay. What else?
Also, I've heard about like function expression, but we have never used, like I have never used like in my project or like,
Okay. Have you heard about anonymous function?
yes, yeah, anonymous functions too.
So that is same as function expression.
Okay.
Okay, that's just a different name for it. Okay. So this is all this. Anything else anyone knows about functions in JavaScript? I gave one more name, right? Constructor functions, right? Let me write that also. Constructor function. Uh, any other name anyone knows? No. Let me write higher order functions. And this is one thing, right, which brings the asynchronous behavior, right, inside JavaScript. Okay, that is one of the thing, right, which is making that thing possible. Okay, so we'll talk about in depth, but I just wanted to be aware about all these terminologies. And I'm not sure if there are any more, but if I recollect, I'll add it here. Yeah, someone
Just
was saying.
yeah, like there's like if we declare a function inside an object, then it's called method, I guess. I'm not sure, but
Right, okay, when you again that's like a universal kind of a what we say terminology, right? If you talk about creating a function inside a class, right, let's say, or in this case you're telling about objects, right? Objects we have not discussed, so I'll not go in deep of it, but yeah, you're absolutely correct. That is, I think in JavaScript we call it method only, but in essence it is only a function only, right? In the at the root of it, it's just a function only. Okay, so yeah, we'll talk about it, but let me write it here, method, right? But I would suggest everyone not to focus on this part, at least as of now, but these are the ones, right, which we anyhow have to go through. Okay, right. So let's start our discussion right now. Okay, does one anyone wants to add something here, or we're good with this list? If anyone knows something more about function, maybe I have not added here. No. Okay, so let's start this discussion, right? Okay, till now we have been seeing, right, in JavaScript, if you create a JavaScript code, right, we were not creating any functions, right? We were not creating any functions, and we were writing our logic directly inside the JS file. Let's say this is a file called file.js. I started writing here all my logic, right, without creating a function, right? So first of all, we have to understand in JavaScript you can write code like this, right? You can write the code directly inside a file, and there is no need to write a function, right? But now, since we're talking about functions, and again, I hope you understand the purpose of function, right? Functions provides you the capability of the reusable code, right? So that you don't have to write the same piece of logic again and again. You can just call the function. I'm sure, right? Everyone is aware about these basics of the language, right? Whether you're coming from any background, Java, JavaScript, or Python, and anyone, right? So let's say I want to find let's say I want to find the sum of two numbers, right? Let me write the code in Java, right? How will I do it? Let's say I'm creating a class. Let's say class math functions. Let's say, right? Let's say math utility, right? Math util. Let's write math util. And here, right? What I'll do is I just say let's say uh, public, right? Void. So there is a something called return type, or let's say let me write int here, int, right? And then I give a function name, Let's say the function name is what? Sum here, right? So I'm giving sum here, which is a function name. This is the return type, and this is the access modifier. Access modifier, but again, this is with respect to the class where we are in, right? And what we do is we open the brackets, we provide, I don't remember what we call it as argument or parameters. I think we call it parameters, I believe, over here. So this is what we provide. Then we open the braces, and this is where your body of the function, right? Whichever you want to write, you will write. So in my case, what I will do is I will accept two parameters, int a, int b, and I will do what? I will say, so I will find one more variable, int c equals to a plus b, right? And I will say return c here, right? So one more thing here is that this is your logic, right? And in the end, if you want to return something from the function, right, you will use a return keyword. This is what, this is how Java thing works, right? This is how Java works, right? And be mindful that in Java you have to write a function inside a class, right? So it cannot be written like you can just create a function altogether outside the class. So that's not feasible, right? So you can't do that. So now coming on to JavaScript space, right? This is okay with Java and all. So what we'll do here is, again, we have not learned about classes. Okay. So, and I told you that in JavaScript, right, you can start writing the code even without functions also. So I hope now you at least understand that what we can do here is, in this file.file2.js, I can start with the function, right? I can start creating a function. Okay. Right. So there is no need to create a class or something else, right? If you feel like creating a function, just go and create a function, right? Now, how does the syntax look like in JavaScript for a function? Let me open a new board. Okay, so yeah, so what is the normal syntax, right, to write a function in JavaScript? You will write function, right, like this. If I want to create a function of summing up two numbers, right, right. So what I'll do it, I'll say I'll use the keyword as function. I will give a name of to my function, right? So this will be a function name. So let's say I will say sum here, right? My function name. Let me write here. First of all, you can see no need to specify any return type, right? Specify any return type, because JavaScript does not have data types. It does not require you to specify data types, right? So in Java, you would have to tell here, right? If you're not returning something, you would have to say void, right? If you are returning integer value, you have to say int, right? But in JavaScript, nothing of that is required. You can just use the keyword as function, give the name to your function, right? And then open the brackets, right, to accept the parameters. Now, while accepting the parameters also, right, in Java, you have to specify the data type of those parameters. But in this case, right, you don't have to. You can just say A and B if you feel like. It means that this function can accept two inputs. Whatever type of input you want to provide, you can provide, right? And it will not complain. Okay. So you will just say A and B. But by saying this, you're telling to the function that, right, that it can accept two parameters, right? Okay. Okay, great. Let's now open the braces. So this is where the body comes, right? This is where your body will, the body of the function will come. Body of the function, where your logic will come in, right? Whatever you want to do with this function, some function, right? So here, let's say I'll create a new variable. Let's say let c equals to a plus b, right? And now what I'll do is, let's say I want to, right? I can print, I can use this c here only, right? Or let's say I want to return that value, right, to someone who would make this invocation, right? Someone who calls the sum method, right? I want that thing, right, to know about the output of it. So what I'll do is I can use a return keyword similar to any other language, right? Return similar to any other language. You can say return, and whatever you feel like returning, right? You can just return from here. So here I want to return the C, so I'm mentioning C. Okay, but again, focus on this part. Since I am returning a value here, right? In other languages, I have to specify the relevant return data type, right? But here, since JavaScript does not have to, don't have to specify the return type, there is no need to mention anything here. Okay, so the simple, it's very simple here, right? Just create function with a keyword, give a name to it, No need to specify the return type of the function. No need to specify the return type, I mean data type of the parameters, right? And if you want it to return, you can return. If you don't want to return, you can just ignore it. You can just write the logic, right? So there is no need that you have to give a return statement. No. If you want to just have some logic inside it, just write it there, right? If you want to return something, you can return. Okay. Let's try this out in the code, right? First, and then we'll talk about more. So let's come here. So we have created a branch Day6 for today, and let me create a function. So I'm going to say function, right? And let's say sum only, right? Sum, and I'm saying a comma b and this, right? Okay, you can see, right? I did this way. Now I'm saying is let c equals to a plus b. Okay, and let's say I want to just print this output, right? So I'll say I'll use template strings, and I will say uh, the sum of dollar a and b is dollar c. Oh, sorry, dollar c, right? Okay, no need of semicolon also. Now tell me like okay, so if I've saved the file, right? Now let's do what, right? Just say node and run it. Will it run? If I run it now, will it run? I don't see an output. Why it did not run?
It's not going to run because we're not invoking the function.
Absolutely correct, right? So it's not about just creating the function, it needs to be invoked also, right? So what we did here, right? What we did here is we have defined the function, right? Where you have defined the function, or let's say you have declared the function, right? Okay, you did this, right? Now after doing this, right, you know that you have a function, but someone needs to call him, right? But someone needs to call it if they want this to run, right? So how will run this now? Let's say function calling. This is the terminology that you're calling a function, right? This is called function calling, right? So what we'll do here is we can just simply say what is the name of the function? Sum, right? Just put sum here and do 1 and 2, and that's it, and it will run. So let's try this. Sum 1 comma 2. Let me just write it here on the top that this is called as function. This is called as function declaration, and this is again, this is same to as other languages, right? Not nothing very specific to this. This is how everywhere it works. Function calling, right? So let's run it now. You can see the sum of 1 and 2 is 3, right? So this is how you create a function and it gets executed. Okay, great, right? So any doubt on this one? Anyone? No? Then let me do one more thing then. Let's say this time I was not returning anything, right? Now let's say let me return something, right? So I'm returning C and I'm not printing this out. Okay, I'm not printing this out, rather I'm returning this. So now again let's run it. If I run it, you can see, right, the function was indeed called, right? It was called. It would have it would have got 1 and 2, and the C value would have been 3, and we are returning C. But where is that value going, right? I'm not collecting it. I'm calling the function. The function will return me a value of 3, but I'm not collecting it, right? So if I want to make use of the return value, what should I do is I should capture it in a variable, right? So how will I do it? Let's say, let me call let or const, right? Okay, just a second. Let's say let const, and we'll say uh, add result, okay, to this value. Now I've got the value. So whatever the sum will return, right, it will get assigned to this variable add result. And what I'll do is I'll say console.log, and I will say okay, string templates. Sum result is add result. Okay, let's run this. You see this? This is how you can collect the output, right, from a function. If that function is giving you a written value, right? So this is how you can collect it. Okay. So what did we saw? We saw like how to create a function. How can we, I mean, if we want it, right, we can just avoid returning something from it. And then in that case, this simply invocation of the method is sufficient. But in the other case, if you want to return something from the function, it needs to be collected, right, into a variable. And that is how you will do it. Okay. Right. Okay. I mean, this is similar, right, to any other thing, right? In Java also, if you call a function and it returns a value of int, right, you will have to collect it into a variable. It's just that here we don't define the type. That's why things might look like something different, but this is exactly the same part. Okay. Now, someone can ask me, right, Akhil, why did you use const and not let, right? I would suggest, right, this again, the answer to this question, right, is about, we are about to reach there, right? Maybe next week, Monday, right, we'll start discussing the internals of JavaScript. So you will get all your answers, right? But as of now, as a rule of thumb in JavaScript, right, I would suggest everyone, when you are calling a function or whenever you're dealing with anything, right, maximum time try to use const as a variable to hold your value. Only try to use let whenever you know by beforehand that you would require to do some modifications in it. Otherwise, const should be your, I mean, the thing, right, which you should be using always. Okay. We'll talk about like when we collect arrays, when we collect objects, right, into a const variable, how can we modify that and how it works. We'll talk about it. But in all the cases, I'm still suggesting you to use const only. Okay, not the let part. Okay, again, the reasoning will come in the next week, but just understand that part. Okay, now I told you that, okay, I did not told you actually. Let me just say it now. So this part, right, what we just did, right? Let me first create a new board. Okay, in JavaScript, right, when it comes to creating a function, right, there are only two ways of creating a function. Okay, there are a lot of names which I showed you, right, in the first slide. Okay, there are a lot of names, but most of them, let's say callback function, this one, constructor functions, higher order functions, right, all three of them, right, are the concepts around things. Okay, are the okay, sorry, yeah, right, are the concepts around things. So what we have to understand is about these three, right? These three are something which you will see in the creation part, like how they're different, right? How they are different. So I'm trying to now classify the functions under two buckets and then one into a specialized bucket. Okay. So let's understand this. So what I'm saying is, when it comes to creating a function, there are only two types. Okay. Only two types in JavaScript. One is called as function declaration, and the second is called as function, what do we call it as? Yeah, function expression. Okay, so these are of two types: function declaration and function expression. Right now, okay, what we just saw right now, right, when we were creating a function, that part, right, when we were writing like this, right, function, giving a name to a function, a, b, and all that, right, whatever, I mean, especially this part, right, function and giving a name, right, whatever you do inside this is your business. It is not something which I want to interested in. But this part, right, creating a function like this, right, if you do this, it will come under the bucket of function declaration, that you're declaring a function, right, and you're giving a name to your function. So this is the name of the function, right? But there is an alternative way. Okay, the alternate way is that you can create a function without giving a name. You can just say AB, and whatever logic you were writing here, right, the same logic can come here. Okay, the same logic can come here. But again, now you will ask me, Akhil, okay, this is a function which is great, but there is no name to it. Okay, I do get that there is no name to it. So if someone wants to call this function, how will they call it? Here we are calling the function like this, right? Sum 2, 3, right? How will someone call this function? Like someone has to provide something, right? 2 and 3. Otherwise, to what they will call, right? So try to understand, right? It's just a different way of writing a function, right? And it's not complete yet. Instead of giving a name here, right? What you do is you give equals to, right? And you create const. You can create a let variable also if you feel like, but again, as I'm saying, just use const, right? In majority of your places, and give a name here. So instead of writing it like this, if you create a function like this, right, you can see the difference. There is no much difference here. Instead of giving a name here, you're giving a name like this, right? Const sum equals to function, and this part. Okay, and this is called as function expression. This way of writing things, right, is called as function expression, right? And this, again, it has two ways of writing, right? This is one way, and there is one more way which I am going to tell you now. But this way of writing a function is called as anonymous function. That you have created an anonymous function, right? Because tomorrow, if you wanted to change the name of this function, right, you can just simply call it like this, right? You can just call it like const, let's say something else, right? What we say, let's say sum 2, right? And you can just call it a variable like this, right? Equals to sum. So what will happen here is, now sum 2 is this only, right? Is this only. Let me show you actually first what I mean. So you can see this is my function declaration. Now let me just come down and let me call it as function. I keep forgetting the name. Function expression, right? Function expression. The function expression will do something like this. We'll say const. Okay. So first of all, let me get a function, and I will accept two inputs, a, comma b, and this, and I'll provide a value. Let's see equals to a plus b. So exactly the same stuff, right? And let it be this way. And now I want to call this, so I need to, let's say I want to add with 1 and 2 again, right? But I need a name to it. So what I'm saying is, just go there and say, let's say sum 2, right? Like this. Okay. And now here what I'll do is, I'll just use this name sum 2 to call this. Okay. So let me use this part which I was using in the above case. Right. And let me just comment this part out. And let's run this. Oh, I commented this out. Just a second. You can see, right? Sum of 1 and 2 is 3, right? So it is still working. It is still working, right? Just a different way of writing a function. But there is a whole new branch which opens up because of this. And this, again, remember, right? If you're writing a function like this, this is, as of now, this is called as, this belongs to the category of function expression. And the specialized name for this way of writing is called as anonymous function, right? So this is the A part, right? A category, I mean, the one of the categories of the function expression. And this is called as anonymous functions. Okay. Now, what I was saying you that you can, in the above case, right? You would have to, if you want to change the name, right? You would have to change the name here, right? I think what you can do here is, I can just simply say const sum 3 equals to sum 2. Okay. And now I can say sum 3 1 comma 2, right? We stop this and now see this, right? What will happen? Let me clear this out actually. How will I clear it like this? And let's save this and run this. You see, it still works. So now your function did not have a name, right? And as per my will, right? As per the will of the consumer, right? Who is the consumer of the function? This line, right? This line was the consumer of the function, right? This line there, right? Right? That's why it is a separate part of the functions world, right? One is called as function declaration, second is called function calling, right? In the earlier case, right, someone was, like, someone did not had the authority to change the name of the function. Let's say I'm the one who created the function, right? And I'm not allowing anyone to change that name. Okay, great. So, and that is, let's say that is the policy which I follow. then in that case, function declaration is the best way to do that. Okay, you will do it this way, and then just use sum to provide the input, right, and it will work. But let's say I have a mechanism where I can provide you a function, and I'm leaving that thing to you that you can go and change the name of the function as per your will, right? So you can give it as sum2, sum3, sum4, whatever you feel like, right? That's why this function is called as anonymous function, a function which does not have a name. It can be anything, right? You getting the point? Okay. This is another way of just writing a function, calling it. Yeah, Amrin, please. Yeah, Amrin, please.
Yeah, yeah, Akhil. So here the like expression conditions, function expression. So it is like we assigning the value of some two method with another variable. So here the thing is like sum two whatever the like value we are providing like one and two, that should be constant, right? And we can use sum three anywhere, right?
When you say 1 and 2 to be constant, I didn't get that part.
Uh, it is like you are assigning sum 2 to sum 3, right?
See,
In the
some
23 line.
see again, try to understand, right? What I'm doing here is consider sum2 like a default name, right? That I have to give a name to that function, right? Otherwise, how will can someone call it, right? That is
Okay.
understand that way, right? So it's like a default name. But you, because this is anonymous function, you have the opportunity to, instead of saying it as sum2, you can rename to anything which you feel like. So what I'm saying here is, try to understand this way. What is happening here is, this is sum3 equals to sum2, right? Let me just bring it this down and make it away. So try to understand what is happening here is, sum2 is what? This part, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If I say what is sum2, sum2 is this, right? Just try to
Yes.
understand this is what is happening here,
Okay.
right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I
Yeah.
think now you understood, right? When
Yeah,
sum
yeah, I got it.
is calling, right, you are giving the parameters which this function is accepting, right? So that's why you're providing these values.
Yes, yes. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Harsh, please ask your query.
So, sir, when we are assigning sum 3 equals to sum 2, so now sum 3 is also a function, or is
Yeah.
it just a variable?
Yes, sum3 is a function. I can tell you, right? Okay, I think can we check the is type of it? Let me check actually. Let me check. I'm not very sure. Let me check. Type of, let's say type of sum3. Okay, let's check this. Let's see what do we get. I think it will give me object because functions are also objects in JavaScript, but let's see. I'm not very sure. Let's try. And let me run it. Yeah. Oh, it gives me function, right? It's, you can see, right? So here it tells you, right, that sum3 is also a function, right? So I think that answers your query,
Yes, sir.
right? If I check sum2 also, right, it is a function.
Yeah, Akhil, one last question.
Yeah, please.
So, uh, like sum 2 also is anonymous functions, right? And here sum 3 also the same.
Both of them pointing to the same thing.
Same thing, yeah. So, why we are like using this kind of thing? Is there any advantage like
Means what?
assigning?
Why I'm doing this line?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is just to explain you, right, that this is an anonymous function. That's it. I'll not do it this way, right? If I have to do, I'll just at least say sum2 here.
Okay.
So this is just to explain you that why it is called as an anonymous function, because you can name it anything you feel like.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other query?
Hey,
Anyone else?
hey,
Yeah, so
Akhil,
please.
I have a question. Okay, so the if you have function anonymous function, right? So in order for you to have an anonymous function, you cannot declare that with a name, right? The function
I
you
cannot.
have to leave it empty. So in order for a function to be anonymous, you cannot declare that with a name, right? You cannot state it. You cannot state that
No,
as a name.
no. See, just try to understand this part, right? If you say you do this part, right?
Hmm.
See, first of all, right? If you say that you can do this part, no, this is not correct, right? You cannot write it like this, right? First of all, I mean, this is half part of the anonymous function. Just try to understand what we are saying is that it's not like you don't have to give a name. The name is definitely required for a function. It's just that it will be treated like a default name, right? That because it has to have some name so that someone can call it. So you can assign it like this, right? So this is what the complete anonymous function will look like. You can call it as let also, right? I believe let will also work. This is based on your understanding, let and const, but this is the complete thing of anonymous function. Now what I'm saying is that because it's an anonymous function, the function, see, try to understand, sum2 is a variable, right? Sum2 is a variable which you declare, right? The function itself does not have a name. It's just that you're assigning a function to a variable.
But if you try to give it a name, would that be an error?
If you do this thing, let's say
Yeah.
some 4, I don't think so. It should have an error. You can do anything, right? The okay, you see, right? This did not have an error, right? It did not have an error. So
Okay.
what will you do here? Now you can see this, right? It says sum2 now, right? Sum2 equals to this function, right? Now tell me, you can see it did not give me an error. Now what should I run to? I mean, what should I write here to run this method, to run this thing? So what should I call here? Tell me. Should
Right,
I?
right. So that is you can. Do you want to go? So it becomes it's a confusing, right?
Right.
Do you want to
So
invoke the function itself, or you want to invoke the variable? Right.
right. But again, this is possible here, right? What you can do is just call sum to here, and I think this will work, right? Just let me show you this. So sum to here, and you will have to provide. But again, this is a problem. I believe you will not be able to do it. But let me try. Let me try. I don't think so. You can do this way. There are a lot of tricky things in JavaScript, but yeah, let me try to run this. I'm not sure whether it runs or not. Let me clean this up. You see, you see, right? It may sound like I mean, like a crazy thing over here, but you can see, right? I did give 1 and 2 to it, right? What this do was, because sum2 was like accessing this variable, right? This function here, right? So what it did was it passed on these values to these variables also, right? Okay, you can see, right? 1 and 2 was given
Mm-hmm.
to it, 1 and 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, you will not do this kind of a thing, right? If you want to write a name to a function, then there is no need to do this with, right? You will call it like this,
Right, right.
right? And you will just simply call sum4, right? Instead of sum2 and all, right? Sum4, right? You will do something like this. Okay. And if you wanted to have like an anonymous function where you don't want to give a name to it, so you will just say const and that part, right? But was that sum2, right? Equals to this, and remove sum from here, right? Yeah, I think 2 hands are up. Right? Hasn't you asked your query, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, Anand, please.
So Akhil, my question is, as we are seeing that the result of console.log type of sum2 is as a function. So let's say if I have a requirement where I need to perform some operations on sum2, so will that be possible now because it is a type, its data type is function. I'm not sure, like I don't remember anything performing an operations on function type of variable anywhere. Like my question is, let's say this is some variable which is holding some value in numbers. Now I
No,
want to
no,
perform
no,
that
no, 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 no.
some
It is
operation
not.
on.
It's not a variable. It's not a variable like which is holding a value. Just think of it like it's just a function, right? I mean, it's just a variable pointing to a function. That's it, right? And if you will call it right, I mean, if you would like here we're checking this type of sum to, right, like this. If I just let's say don't do this, right, and I say sum to here, right, like this, right, it will do nothing, right? It will do nothing here. It will rather print what? Tell me what will be the output of this? It will do what?
It will print the sum
It
of
will print the function, right? It will not print anything. You're not
oh,
giving any input.
because we are
It
not
will
calling.
it will print the entire thing here. Let me check. Let me see.
Yeah.
You see, it is telling it's a function of sum to, right? That's it. It is telling you this. Okay, it is just telling you that it's a function, right? And that's it. It will not call the function because you have not given the inputs to it. Now you give the inputs to it. 1, 2, right? And save this and run it. Now you will see the sum of 1 and 2 is 3, right? It called. But since you are giving, right, what is happening here? Some here you were not returning anything, right? You were not returning anything from the function, right?
Mhm.
Are we returning anything from here?
No.
No, right? And we are saying console.log and the output of this method invocation should be written. Now the function is not returning you anything, so what will get printed? Undefined,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
So this is what you're seeing over here.
So,
Okay.
okay. So actually,
Mhm.
my thought process was like it is giving us some kind of an abstraction. Like I don't want to expose my implementation. An example that was coming to my mind is, let's say this is let's assume that there is some calculator application, and this sum2 is some, let's say, a rate of percent, and
Mhm.
now user, based on their input, can calculate some xyz value given with this rate of percent. But then when I saw that type of sum2 is a function, so can user use it for any operation, sum2,
Like let's say minusing, multiply, and divide kind of an operation.
either because we are passing the parameters as number. Let's say this is also holding some string. So like can string operations are possible on sum2 if the parameters are passed as string?
Yes, right. But again, you have to make sure that you're returning something from it, right? If I
Okay.
call this right, if I
Okay.
call this right,
Return is or needs to be there.
right, you can just say return C here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I can do here is I can just call it like this. I can say sum is this. I hopefully this should run. Let's see. Let me clean this up. You see, right? Sum is 3.
Okay, so and still the data type of sum2 will still be a function type only.
Because sum2 is pointing to the function, right?
A function.
Right?
But now it is also available like
No, you're understanding it very differently, right? See, try to understand. These are two different things. When you write something like this, right? Sum2, you're
Mhm,
just telling that sum2 is what? Sum2 is just the function, right?
mhm,
If I have to check what is sum2, sum2 is a function, right? We can
mhm,
see above, right? But once I say sum2 1 comma 2, right, like this, you are
mhm.
doing what? You are not just mentioning the function, rather you're calling the function. So
Okay.
whatever the output of the function is, that is something which will be returned to it, right?
Mhm,
And you
mhm,
can capture it where you feel like. If I do this right this way, right, let me just do it. If I say type of this, let's say console dot log type of, right, this thing, okay.
mhm, mhm.
In the case of sum2, it was giving function, right? What
Yeah.
should it give here? Because it is returning us, because it is returning you what, int value, right? I mean that as 3 as an input, right? Let's
Mhm.
see what it does. It give, I think it should give you a number only. Let's see. You see, right? Number only.
Okay, now I got it. Okay, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, great, right? One important point, right, for everyone to understand here is, in JavaScript, functions are treated like variables only. Okay, functions are treated like variables. You might not understand this as of today, okay, but eventually you will understand. Okay, but please write it somewhere, right, that functions in JavaScript works like variables. Okay, I will explain this further, but not today. I don't think we have enough understanding to explain that. So let's move ahead, right, to the next part, right? If no one has any query to ask. But this should be clear, right? There are two classifications of functions. One is called as function declaration, which is the normal way of writing a function, which you would have learned in any other language. And there is something called function expression, right? Within which there are two buckets. Yes, Hassan, please.
Hi, Akhil. I have just a query about this backticking with template literals that you. So whenever you come across this variable, right, and then you try to define this as, but is it also console.log? You can just use the double quote and then also specify in that way as well. Like this is the same thing. Same way then, other than using it like with the dollar sign and in the back in the brackets. So this is a way of there's two different way you can go through, right? Like one is console.log, just normal way.
So you will write something like this, right? Try to
Yeah,
see
yeah.
try to see what all modifications I have to go through if I have to write it this way, right? In a double quotes. Just try to understand that part. So if I do here, right, like this, I'll have to give, so I have to make sure that I am writing in a very proper sequence. And I think I explained this in my last class about, there was a session which we took about template strings only. I don't know which day we did, but
Yeah, actually, yeah, I was not there because you had some issues and then I didn't join it.
okay,
It was supposed to
okay,
be on Sunday and then there's some, so I had to go through that video actually.
okay,
So
okay.
I know.
So over there, we have explained in depth about this, right? And I think you will get your answer. But just to answer the query now, just see here, right? If I have to write the same thing using double quote, see what all I have to make sure of, right? I have to make sure that there is some spacing, right? The formatting, that is my responsibility now, right? And I have to make sure that I am opening and closing multiple places, double quotes and single quotes, right? And making sure that variables are properly aligned. So if you can see, right, bn plus is, right. So to answer the query, right, it is
Nice,
possible,
nice.
right? You can write it like
Mm.
this, right? You can write it like this, so there is no issue around it. It's just that the work which is required to write this line is much more less time consuming and much more readable as compared to this one, right?
Less error prone, right?
Absolutely correct, right? So that is what the difference is about. And the preferred approach is to use template strings only, because it saves a lot
Okay.
of time and again energy, right? In
Yeah,
when
it's
it
better
comes to
way.
error proning and all, right? So yeah, so that is what it is. And again, please check that video. You will see a lot of all the inputs, all the things around it from that video. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So okay, going back to our topic. So here we are, right? So again, as I told, right, we have seen two ways of creating a function. One is function declaration, which is a normal way of writing a function, and second is called function expression. And within function expression, I told there are two buckets. One is this, which is called as anonymous function, and now the second bucket, right? It's okay. Did I use return type here? Just a second. I think I did, right? So I can, we just saw, right? It can be without return or return, right? Whatever, like similar to this, right? Whatever you wish, like without return and return, right? And even without parameters or with parameters, right? So both are possible, right? So depending on your logic, what you want, right? You can just adapt accordingly and call it that function. I mean, let me just make sure that you understand this part. What I'm saying here is, it is that currently, right, you are returning here, right? You could avoid returning, right? We discussed this part. But if you want to create a function which does not accept any inputs, then this is how it will be, right? Right? It will not accept any inputs. And maybe I just want to print a name. Let me do this. So let's say I have a function which does not return anything or does not take any inputs. So what I'll do here is, I'll just simply do a function, let's say print name. Okay, and let's say I have hard coded the name, and I will say console.log Akhiljan, right? So here again, double quote, single quotes, or template string, whatever you feel like, you can type. So what I will do here is to invoke this, just simply call this print name, right? And this part, and your function will be invoked. This is called what? This is function declaration, right? Without using any parameters. Second approach was like to use function expression, and it will be like, let's say const name, let's say name. Okay, again name will have a problem. Let's say output, right? Output equals to function, right? And I will say console or log, say Akhiljan again, right? So I can just call there and just say output, and that's it, right? And this will work, right? So let me comment the above part. Let's run this. You can see, right? Both the ways I'm getting the output, right? So you can write a function with parameters, without parameters, and in both the approaches, right? Function declaration and function expression. Now the last part, right, of the function of our discussion. which is the most important part actually. I mean, I should not say most important, but again, a very used form of writing a function, and that is called as arrow functions. Arrow functions. But mind you, right, try to understand, right, both anonymous functions and arrow functions are like subcategories within function expression. Okay, anonymous function we have already seen, like how do you write this, right? You create a variable equal and function and write this, right? We have to now see what is a arrow function now. Okay, so okay, let me clean some board. Okay, so let me just write side by side, right, all the things again. Function sum a comma b, right, and I will say let c equals to a plus b, and let's say return c. This is function declaration. Now function expression, the first part is anonymous function, and here I will write something like this: const sum equals to function a comma b, and I will write here let c equals to a plus b, return c. In both the way, in both the approaches, I am achieving the same objective, right? How am I calling this? I'm just saying sum 2 comma 3, right? Let's say this is, and here also I'm just calling sum 2 comma 3, right? You can see. Now the third approach, right, which is a part of this feature, I mean, sorry, function expression, right? How do we write here? For to write this, right, you will have to do this. Okay, what are the important parts of a function? One, the body, right? This body part. Second, the inputs which you want to accept, and third, the name of the function, right? Because you need to give some name, right? Although we're calling it as anonymous function, but because we are not providing a name here, but eventually it has to be something, right? So that if you want, you can change it later, right? We just saw that part. So this is arrow.
And the function keyword should.
That is the part, right? I'm coming to that part. That is not required. Okay. In this third case, that is not required. So the third thing, right, which might seem very strange to people who have never seen JavaScript, it looks like this. You will say, you see AB here, right? A comma B, right? And you will put this equal sign, then this greater than equal to sign, right? And then open the braces like this. That's what you're doing here, right? And then you write here, let C equals to A plus B, and you will say return C. This is your function. Okay. I'm sure people who are not familiar with the JavaScript, right, they might feel it very strange. But the people who understands lambdas and streams in Java, right, I think they will be able to relate to it. But again, I'm not bringing that discussion over here. It's like a worm of, I mean, it's just like can of worm, so I'm not opening it up. But let's just be here, right? So what I'm saying here is this is the third way of writing a function. If you see, right, the body part is still there, right? You can see it is still there. So there is no difference around it. The body part is still there, right? So body is still there, right? So there is no difference in all the three approaches which you have written. The body is still there, right? So body is definitely there. Second, the parameters which you wanted to have, right? So those are also there, right? You can see this part, and this part, right? Now, if you see, right, when you move from here to here, you remove function, right? Sorry, you remove the name of the function. So name of function was removed. Name of function was removed. Okay. Now, when you move from here to here, right, you can see even the function keyword is also removed. So you don't have to give the name of the function, not required, and you also do not have to give the function as a keyword. Function as a keyword. You don't have to specify this also. But what you have to specify, you can see, right, there's an additional thing over here, which is this arrow sign, right? So you need to have this arrow sign. Okay, and this is the representation part that you are trying to create an arrow function. Okay, and I hope you understand like what is arrow here. Arrow is this part, right? And that is why the name is given as arrow function. But if you would see the left hand side of it, right, this is equivalent to what your anonymous function, right? You have to give a name. And since, right, you are not specifying a name to, I mean the way you're writing here, right, these two are part of the function expressions. One is called as anonymous function and second is called as arrow function. So you can call it like it's a special form of anonymous function. Okay, so this is what anonymous function is, and this is like a special form where you also skip writing function as a keyword. Okay, so let me write it. So it's a special form of anonymous function. Let me first write it there, and then I will take up the question, right? Let me just show you how it works. So till now, right, we were writing the above stuff, right? Let me just show in the above case. So you were writing all this, right? Let me achieve the same part. Let me comment this part. So over here, right? Yeah. So what I'll do is, let me copy paste the part. This was the function declaration. Let me bring it down. So this is how your function declaration will look like. Now I want to convert into a function expression that to anonymous function. So I'll not give it a name to it. I'll not give a name. I'll just simply say const sum equals to this, right? And this becomes your function expression, right? And within function expression, this is the anonymous function, right? You're not giving a name to your function. Now, the another a very specialized form of a function within this also is called as the arrow function. So for doing that, I will remove this function keyword, and then you can see it is now giving you an error here, right? Within this bracket, you can see a red line being shown, right? So to resolve it, you have to make a arrow function, and now everything is good, right? You can see, right, what is the difference? I just removed the function keyword and gave this arrow as a sign over there, right? Now I need to call this. What I'll do is simply this 2 comma 3, and that's it. I think I have commented all out. So let me just run it. Okay, it will not print anything, right? So let me print console the log. Yeah, let's just print it this way. Okay, so let's run this. You can see, right, 5. This is how it works, right? And this is called as arrow functions, right? And these are the 3 different types of functions which can exist in JavaScript when it comes to writing a function, right? There are other concepts which I just said, right? Higher order functions and other things, but this is about the arrow function. Yes, Hassan, please ask your query.
Yeah, okay. So the arrow function not necessarily have to have any kind of parameters, right? So we can just not mention any parameters and then also console that log, right?
Absolutely correct. And that there are 2 things, right, which I have not covered till now about this, since we're not done with the arrow function. Just to answer your query here, right? See here, if, let's say I want to, right, I was creating this function to print a name, right, where I was not accepting an input, right? So let me first again
Right.
copy this and bring it down. You can see everyone, right? Currently, I have a created like a function declaration where I have this method which is not accepting any inputs. So this is the function declaration. If I have to convert it into a function expression, which is that to the anonymous function, so what I'll do is I'll remove this name. Let me cut it out, and I will call const. And this is how I will write this. I hope everyone agrees, right? Now,
Yeah.
right now, to convert this anonymous function into a arrow function, what is required is remove the function keyword, right? That is the whole point about it. I just said above, right? You can remove it, and what we have to do is give this arrow sign, and this is how your arrow function will look like for this case. And now let me do one more thing, right? You can see I was not returning anything from here, right? You can see that this function was not required to return anything. and this is like a one line of code, right, which I'm writing for this function. So the rule here says, if you are not writing multiple line of code, what you can do is you can altogether skip these brackets. And this is what your anonymous function will look like. When you see it for the first time, right, without understanding, you might think, okay, what is really happening here? Right? You will get confused. Okay, if this is a function, this is a variable, what exactly is happening here? But whenever you see this, right, this thing, you have to understand that it is like a function, right? This right hand side part is the body of it. Since it has only one line of code, that's why you do not have to put it into a braces like this. If you wish, like, you can do that, but there is no necessity if it's a single line thing. If it is a multiple line thing, then yes, you have to give it in a bracket. Okay, so you will do this, and that's it, right? This is what it will call like. So you can see the difference, right, between all three of them. Let me show you here. So this is your this is how you will call your function declaration, this part, right? This is your anonymous function, right? And mind you, right, in all these cases, it is not like you can skip the brackets, right? Brackets are required in all those cases. It's just in the arrow functions. The brackets are not required if it's a single line of code, right? But in both the other things, right, the brackets are required. They are mandatory. You cannot skip them. Even here, right? The brackets cannot be skipped. Okay, it has to be there. It's only in the anonymous function. If you place it in a single line, you can write it like this. Okay, all three are doing the same stuff, just printing the name. Okay, one last rule around arrow functions. You see, currently I'm just writing this piece of line, right? Okay, so okay, let me do one thing. Not print name, let's say print name 2, and let me just comment this piece out and the above part also. Just one last thing, right? And I'm sure people will have queries, so I'm ready to answer. Just give me one sec. So what I'll do is print2. Let me call this print2, right? You can see I'm not calling anything else. These are all methods, right? But I'm not calling them. I'm just calling this method, right? Print2, print name2. Let's run this. It says Akhiljan, right? Let me show you the written type of the print2 name. Does anyone know what will be my written type? If I type this console.log print name 2, if I do this, what should be the output of this?
Callback function.
Not callback. We have not discussed about callback. Callback, no, not callback. Okay, it will be function only. It will be function only.
Akhiljan.
Not Akhiljan. I don't think it will be Akhiljan. It will be, what does console.log returns? Void it. Okay, let's see. Actually, I'm not sure. Actually, let's see. Okay, let's see whether it will function or something. I'm not sure about the console.log, but it will not say string, I believe. Let's see. See, it's a functions only, right? It's a functions only, because I am saying console.log, right? It's a body, right? It's like a statement which you're writing there. If I would have done this, now, first of all, what would be my output if I do print name 2? Let me just tell me. If I call this, if I now run it, what will be my output? Will it do something?
Nothing.
No.
It will do nothing, right? Because we are not printing anything. So let me first run it. Let me clean this up. You see, it did nothing here, right? But what if I tell you, like, now what will happen if I do this part? Let me just comment it out. If I do console.log print name 2, what it should say now? Okay, did not do written console. Just a second. I did one thing I wanted to do was I did do that type of, right? Or no? Okay, I think I did not do. Let me just run it. So let me just do the earlier part first. I think I missed that part. Console.log. If I do this thing, right, and if I do this part here now, this will print me what? Akhiljan, right? This will print me Akhiljan. Now, if I do console.log, what it will do is it will try to print the function, right, which we have, and that and the way it prints it says function in the name of the function, right? But if I do type of this, right, what it will do is it was here saying it was giving me this output here, right? Function and print name too. It was giving something like this, right, over here. But if I do a type of, if I'm trying to check the what is the data type of the print name too, what it will be? Anyone?
Function.
Function, right? Let me run this. Let's see this. You can see, right? The first is because you're calling the function and you're trying and you are executing the body of the function. So it is printing whatever you have added the logic. So we're trying to print Akhiljan on the console. So that's why this got printed, right? Second time, I'm just printing the print name too, right? Which is the function. I'm not calling the function. I'm just printing the function. So here, the way it prints it, it just says function and the name of the function, right? That's it. And the third part is I'm trying to understand what is the written type of this variable. And I'm getting to know it's a function, right? Okay. Now let me do one thing. Let me just put it like this and copy this and bring it like this and comment the above line. And here what I'll do is I'll remove this part. Okay, I'm removing this part. And now if I do the same stuff, now please tell me what will I see here? What would be my output of this first line? Any output will I get?
No.
No.
So no output, right? Because I'm not printing anything, right? What output will I get of if I run console.log print name to?
Same
I
thing,
believe
probably.
same.
Function.
Same
Function
thing,
and time. Print.
The same thing, right? So same thing. So it will be same thing. Okay, you're saying same thing. Okay, print name too. Okay, same thing. Okay, let's see. And what would be the third type of this? What it would call is? What would be this type?
String.
You're saying string, not the function?
Hold on. The shorthand operator represents arrow function. So yeah,
Same
it will
thing.
still be
Function.
a function doing nothing. Yeah, it will still be a function but doing nothing. Yeah.
Function. Okay. Anyone else wants to add something? So I mean, what we are saying is just the out. This will change, right? No output, and we'll still get same thing like this only. Let me just write it this part. Same thing does not look very good, right? So we still will get this output and this output, right? Okay. Let me run this then. Let's see what do we get. Okay. Okay. I'm wrong here. I was thinking something else. Okay. Okay. JavaScript is fine. That's great. Okay. Now, okay. What should I tell you here? Type of print name to is this. I'm printing name to. Okay. Why did not printed this thing? Let me think. See, the rule here in arrow function is by default, right? By default, it returns your value, right? Okay, let me just check. Am I missing some rule? Just a second. There's so many rules. Just a second.
It does aligns with what you explained, right?
No, actually, there is one thing which I wanted you to understand implicitly. Okay, let me try with other example. Okay, I'll come back on this, right? Maybe tomorrow. I don't have an explanation right now why it behaved like this. But let me give you one more example, right? I think, okay, Hassan, you want to say something?
So what should it print like?
Not me, Akhil.
Okay.
What were you expecting, Akhil?
Yes.
Okay. I will show you, right, what I was expecting, but in the different context. Let me write it now. So let's say I'm, okay, let me just comment this out first. So it doesn't. Okay, so let's say let's say I want to find the age of a person, right? So let's say I'm saying this. If I have to create a function, how will I do it? I will say I will ask the user to provide me the age, right? Let's say the year in which the person was born, and I would like to find the age. Let's select real age equals to today is 2024, let's say, right? And I would just subtract this year from it, right? And I will get a value. And let's say I want to print it, right? Console.log real age. Real age. So if I run this and I call it as like, this is the anonymous function, right? So the normal function will work. So I'm not writing it there. Let's say this is 1980, right? So the person should be of how many years? 44 years, right? And this is what we wanted to print. Let's run this and see what do we get. We get 44, right? We get 44. Okay. If I do this, let's say instead of saying console.log, if I say return real age, right? Real age. If I'm doing this, remember, right, what I told you. This is just a variable. This is not a function. Whatever you assign to it, it becomes that thing, right? I'm currently assigning it a function, but once it completes, right, you can see what I'm returning is a int value, right? Something on it. But I think let's run it first. Then I will make more thing about it. So this is real age. It is getting returned, and I will call what? I will say console.log and this, right? So what should we see? We should see the same stuff, right? What
Yeah.
do we? What should we see? Same stuff. Okay, I got it. What I did a mistake. Okay. I think I got what I made a mistake in the above case. Let me run this. Okay. So see, I got 44, right? Still the 44. Now, what I want to tell here is, if I was creating an anonymous function, right? Oh, sorry, the arrow function. Let me create it now. So this is age 1, this is age 2. I will remove function from here. I will provide the here, right? And let's say this is my case, right? If I am running it like this, right? Age 2, I will still get the same output, right, everyone? So let's run this. I still get 44, right? Now what I want to say here is, if I do something like this, right? If I am removing, okay, let me, sorry, just a second. Age 2. This is the arrow function, right? See another form of arrow function. I'm doing this, right? I'm providing the brackets. I'm removing these two lines. Okay. I'm removing this part. I'm removing this bracket. I'm removing everything. So what I have is it a valid function or not? Anyone?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
It's a valid
Yes.
function, right? It's a valid function. So what would be the value of h3 here? If I run h3 now, what will I get? Will it do
Same thing,
anything?
44.
Why
Oh,
44
no,
now?
it's not.
Why 44 now? Tell me this. I mean, let me first run it. Let me check actually.
So there is a
Let me,
expression, right?
so first of all, right? First of all, you can see the answer is correct. It will return me 44. But I want to understand why 44. Because this is like the body of the function. I am not putting a return keyword here, right? I'm not putting it. And still, this is getting executed and the value is getting stored in H3. Why?
Sir, because whatever value we are getting from the 2024 minus year, it is getting yielded into the year parameter. So
It is
that's why
getting,
it's returning.
it is getting, sorry, I didn't get that last part. It is getting,
Yielded into the like year variable parameters.
no,
Like
It does not still
the
explain
value
why
gets
is it
stored into.
returning. Like
So,
it's not.
Akhil, as you said, like here we are providing arrow symbol, right? So it is also a type of method, right?
no, I didn't get the point. Can you please repeat that part?
Here also you are using arrow, so it is also considered as a method.
Which is absolutely correct. See, this is an arrow function, right? This is the parameter of it. This signifies it's an arrow function, so this becomes the body of it, right? But I
Is
am
it
not
because
using,
the assignment is happening for the evaluation that has happened?
no, right? See, again, the point here I'm trying to make is here, right? why when I was calling age to, right, why it was printing 44? Like, tell me about this part. Because you were returning the age, right? You were using a return keyword, right?
Right.
That's why you were, when you were calling age to, right, you were getting 44, right? If I don't use return to, what will happen? If I don't use this part and I say console.log age to, right? If I do this, what this will print now?
Blank.
So I have to provide the value, right? 1980, right? If I do this now, what it will print? Will it print something?
No.
It will not print, right? Let me run this. It says undefined, right? Because nothing, because it did not got the value and we are still printing, it prints non-undefined, right? Right? And why it was printing me 44? Because of this return statement. See here, right? 44, right? Because you are assigning the value, right, of this, right? Once this method gets called, right, you are returning that value, right? So my point over here is, in the arrow functions, right, if you are adding a single line of code, right, first of all, you can remove those braces, right, as I told, but there is a second rule around it, right? Whatever you mention here, right, would be returned as an output by default. So you don't have to write return keyword here. You don't have to write return keyword here, right? Okay, if you want to write it, you will have to use braces here.
So there's an implicit return.
Right, that is what I'm trying to explain. Okay.
Got it.
And in the above case, right, the mistake I was making was I was not calling the function.
Yeah, the braces are we haven't used the
Right,
parenthesis.
right. And I was wondering like what logic I learned and what I'm teaching you now. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes, right. Okay, just a second. Let me just show you what I was trying to say over there. Here, right? I think this was the part.
So I have
Yeah,
question.
please. I'm sure you will have queries. Just give me 1 sec, right? I just wanted to print this. This part, right? You can see. I was calling something like this, right? Print name to, and I was saying that it should print something, right? So you can see print name to when I was doing this, right? Yeah. I have to do something like this, console.log. Okay. Here, right? It was not printing it. I have to do this, right? And this part. So if I do this now, right? Please tell me now what would be the output of this line. I'm writing a function like this. What should be the output of this?
Not not
No
no
output.
output for 79.
Great. Because why? Because print, see, this will eventually evaluate to a killgen, but you're not printing it, right? You're not printing on the screen. Print name to brackets semicolon, right? Once this entire thing evaluates, line number 73 one evaluates, it is getting a killgen, right? But you're not printing on the screen, so it has no effect on the console output, right? That's why you will not see any output because of this. Agree, everyone?
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Right. Okay, now let's say about line number 80. What will happen here?
It will print a killgen.
It will print a killgen. Why? Because this is, if you have not provided the braces, so it's like, it's something like this, right? You're doing something like this only. Return. Okay, it is something like this. Whether you write this way or you remove this, right? It means the same stuff. Okay, so by default, it inherently returns you the thing, right? If you write in this way, in a single line of code without the parentheses. Okay, so it will return a killgen. So I am receiving a killgen. So what happens is, once this expression gets evaluated, it has the value of a killgen, right? And when you're printing it, it prints a killgen on the screen, right? And now if I ask you what is the type of this complete after evaluation, what would be the output here?
String.
What?
String.
String,
String.
right? Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct, right? So last time when I was explaining, I was not taking into account this calling part. I was just simply calling the function. This way, if you see print name to is always a function, right? Right. Sorry for the confusion. I think because of those braces, I was trying to explain something else, but this is what it is, right? Let me just run it again. Have I commented everything out? Yeah. Let's run this. So we are expecting nothing to be printed here. We expect Akhiljan to be printed here, and we expect string to be printed here, right? Okay, let me just clean this up. You can see, right? Akhiljan and string. Okay, and again, if someone has a query, let me just do this way also. See here. So I'm not calling it. I'm not calling it. I am calling it, and I'm saying type of this calling, right? Let's print this. So this will be printing me what? Print name to is what? Print name to is anyhow function only, right? So this will print me this output only, right? And if I check the type of print name to, it is a function, right? But once you evaluate it, right, by calling it, right, by using the parenthesis, the braces, right, it will attain. I mean, you are not changing print name to, right? Try to understand. You are evaluating the print. You're calling the print name to method, and whatever would be the output, you're just printing it, right? It does not mean that print name to has changed. No, print name to is still a function, right? So let's run this. See here, right? Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people may have queries. So please ask. Tejaswari, you had.
Yes. Actually, we have these many types of functions. So for which functionality we have to use which type of function?
Okay. So again, the short answer to your query is you will use anonymous functions or the arrow function the most.
Okay.
Okay. So I mean that is, it's not that there is a preference around each other, but it has to depend on the context, right? But majority of the places you will see arrow functions being used, right? And
Mhm.
why? There is a reason for it, right? There's a reason for it because it makes it more uh, very strongly typed language, right? What I mean by that, I think that will get clear again in the next week, right? Next week is very crucial because we are going to deep down into the internals of JavaScript, where all these things, right, will get clear. Okay, so I would
Okay.
again say the better way of writing a function is through arrow functions or through the function expression, right? That anonymous function, not the function declaration, because
Okay.
you would have heard a term of called as hoisting, 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 right? That is a concept, right, which we do not want to have in our logic, right? We want to avoid that concept. Okay, what is that concept and all? That is something we'll discuss next week. Okay, so to
Okay.
mark your answer, that is the answer.
Okay.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, Harsh, you were asking something.
Uh, yes, sir. So at line 79, when we calling the print name to, so we can assign it to any variable also and store that value in that variable. Is that
Absolutely
possible?
correct. Yeah, yeah, that's what exactly we do, right? Let's say this is printing what me, this is printing this, right? So I will say let name equals to this, right? And I will call it console.log, right? Name. Let's print this. Okay, name, we have a problem because it's, I think it's, let me call it first name, right? And we, let's run this. You can see, right? Akhiljan being printed here, right?
Yes.
Where is that part? Here, right? It's not clear. Let me run it again. Okay, what I did here. Did I do any mistake? It was running, right?
Sir, I think we are assigning a const variable to a let variable. Maybe that.
No, but this was working right now, right? Okay, there we have a problem because you see temp code runner file. Okay, okay, okay. This is the earlier one, right? Okay, let me just write. Okay, what is happening here? Yeah, this is the output, right? This was some other output which I was trying, right? This is what we have. Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay, then, right? This will print this way. Okay, so I think you got your answer. Anyone else wants to ask something? Hassan, you have something to ask?
Yeah, hi, Akhil. So, I mean, I have
Yeah.
a question. Okay, so within a single line of code, when you have an arrow that implicitly returns, right? So if you happen to make that a double line, maybe so what would yeah, if you go down there, right? Is it going to be an error here?
Let's see. Actually, I think it would be an error. It will not take it as a function. To say, let's say, let's write pot test here, right? And this part, right? It should not work actually. Let's see, because now it's not an arrow function anymore. It will treat this part as one thing, right? You can see what it will do is it will treat this part as something, right? And this would be like an extra thing, right? Okay. So let me run this. See here what will happen.
Yeah, that would be console.log print name 2, right? Function. You want to print out the isn't it?
Sorry, I didn't get the question. Can you please repeat?
Oh, I think so. You're trying to print out the pot test within that function, right? So you have to call that. I
Right.
see. Okay.
Right. So it is like something like this, right? If I let me put the indentation right, this is something like this. Okay, and I'm expecting that these two are the part of my function's body. But you can see, right? Once I wrote this way, right? What is this? I mean, the compiler part is taking is it is considering this as the function, right? And this is the only part to the function's body, right? Since we have not defined the boundary, right? So what it does is it automatically assumes that then whatever line you're providing now is the body, is the only body of the function, and this
Mm.
part is considered like an outside of the function, right? It is like it does not exist in the function, right? It's like a separate line outside somewhere. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, great. Okay, anything else, anyone?
Sir,
Yeah, please, sir.
just one silly question, sir. What is the difference between implicit and explicit? Because I have heard this a lot, but I don't know the real meaning.
Okay, so no worries. See here, when you say implicit, again, it's not in the context of our teaching language and all, but it's like the English terminology, right? If you understand the literal meaning of it, right? Implicit means which is, I mean, even I'm not very good in explaining the English word, but let me try. Okay, implicit is like which is from the internal part, right? I mean, which you don't have to say, right? Which still exists, right? And which you don't have to explain about. Explicit is that you have to specifically mention, right? Okay, so that is what explicit and implicit is. I think rather than me explaining this, I think let's ask English gurus, not me. Let me ask, right? So what is implicit? What is implicit and explicit, right? I hope it does not start giving me in the JavaScript uh, two ways of expressing or handling information on definition. It is explaining in JavaScript concept. Okay, I don't want to answer that. Okay, what is implicit, and explicit? Literal meaning, right? Literal meaning, meaning in English. Implied or understood, right? Without being directly stated, right? So you don't have to say it, but it is like something which should you understand. Like I think they're giving an example. When someone says it's chilly outside, you might implicitly understand that they suggest you to wear a jacket, right? It's like
Yes.
you right. So it's like that something which you should eventually understand, right? Without someone saying this. Okay. When someone say explicit, right, state it clearly. When someone very specifically says about the thing, right, that okay, this is what has to be done in a very clear word, right? So they are explicitly telling you that this is what you have to do. It's not implied, right? So let's say your manager says, okay, do a good job. Okay, it could have some implicit meanings that okay, you have to finish, you have to fill your time sheets, you have to let's say complete your work right by 5 p.m., right? And maybe submit, create 10 test cases per day, right? Something of the implicit nature, right, which you would be knowing because you're working there, right? Explicit would be like okay, Harsh, you will stay here till 8 p.m. in the night and finish this job, right? So that is like an explicit mention of the thing right over there. You can see the example here. If someone says you should wear a jacket before it is 10 degrees Celsius outside, that is an explicit statement, right? They're telling you what to do when that thing is happening. Okay. Now, when we bring this discussion to our JavaScript world, right? When I say arrow function, right? when you write a single line of that code, right? What someone said was it's an implicit return. So what does it mean is that you should understand that if someone writes a single line of code without the braces, you have to understand that it will return something. It will return that thing. Okay, so that's why it is called as implicit return, because you did not return it, right? But still it is getting returned because it has to be returned. Okay.
Yes, sir, understood.
Right. Okay, great. I mean, see, again, there is no silly question, right? Even when we started, right, or when I started, I still get confused with a lot of things, right? It's good to ask those questions, right? Because no question is silly. Someone might have some other understanding of this. So, but again, the literal it all depends on the literal meaning of what these words means, and those are being used. Okay. Okay. Great. So I hope everyone understood, right, about all these three functions. Anyone has any more queries to ask on this part? No. Okay, so again, so let's do one thing. Let me ask you one thing. So tell me, if I write something like this, let multiply equals to 5, or let's say a comma b. Let's say a into b, and I say multiply 2 comma 3, and I do console.log and run this. What output will I get if I run this? This is a b, and I'm providing 2 3 to it.
6.
6, right? So why 6? Because
Return.
what is happening is 2 would be assigned to this, 3 would be assigned to this, right? From 2 would be given to this a, and 3 would be given to b. It would be getting multiplied. 2 into 3, it will be 6. And because it's a single line of code without the braces, it is similar to, right, you're returning return 6, right? So it is returning 6. So what will happen here is, if someone calls this way, right, the output, this entire thing would get evaluated, and this expression will translate into a value of 6, right? Right. Try to see, right, how much space you're saving, right? You don't have to write function, you don't have to give a name, you don't have to even write the braces and all, right? So people who are lazy, this is the best thing to write, right, in a single line of code. Okay, this is what arrow function is. Now, why it came into existence, I mean, when it come, I think should not answer why. I think the more important point is when it came into existence. So these all things, right, all the fancy things in JavaScript, right, or the things which made this evolve, right, all came as part of ES6, right, ECMAScript 6, which was in the year 2015, right? So all these things are a part of JavaScript language from that year, right? Okay, and maybe not from that year, maybe after some more years from it, but these were all the recommendations which we are just learning, right, about arrow functions and all. These were all made available as per the guidelines of the ECMAScript 2015 or ES6, right? We discussed about the history of ECMAScript. So this is about that part, right? But again, I will give a very thorough distinction, right? What really came as part of ES6, but after we discuss all the internals of it, right? We have to still cover like why there is a difference of where, let, and const, and what are the scoping rules around it, right? So all of that we'll understand in the time to come, right? But yeah, when it comes to function, these are the three functions: function declaration, function expression be broken down into anonymous function, and there's a specialized form of anonymous function called arrow function. Okay, I hope you will remember this, because in interviews again people ask a lot of queries on this, right? Okay, I'll not cover anything else, but I just wanted you to know there is something called, yeah, Amrinder, please.
So Akhil, what is recommended, like both from 3?
I told, right? I think there should be also same question. You have to use this one or this one. Try not to use this.
Okay.
Okay. Try not to use this. Again, why I'm saying not to use this, I'll answer that part. Okay.
Okay.
After next week. Okay. Don't use this one. Use this one or this one. But again, if someone is interested to know the answer is hosting. What is hosting? Since I have not discussed, so I'm not explaining. Okay. But the answer due to hosting, this supports hosting and this does not support hosting. and that's why they are better. They provide you better way, I mean, of managing things. Okay, right. Okay, so okay, if no other queries, let me just introduce one concept today, right? We'll not discuss it in detail, but I want you to be aware about it, so that we can start tomorrow's discussion on that part. Let me delete this. Okay, so see here, right? Let's say again in Java, right? I'll start from Java only. Let's say in Java, and this is JavaScript. So I have a function, and I'm calling that function as a public, let's say void sum, and let's say calculate. Okay, let's say calculate. I'm calling it the name as the function as calculate. Okay, so let's say there would be some body of it, right? And there would be some, let's say I will give some parameters here, right? And let's say there, as the need, as per my requirement, right? There are a lot of needs. I want to sum these two numbers. I want to divide them, right? I want to uh, let's say multiply them, right? And let's say minus them, right? But you can understand, right? If I have to give all these four functionalities in Java, it should not be a single method like calculate, right? I should create four different methods. One, let's say this is for sum. This would be for another method, another method, another method, right? Four different methods, right? And if you remember, right, if I have to call the methods, right, in Java, I would just simply call calculate, and I will have to match the data type of it. So it's an int, right? So I can only provide int and int, right? 5 and 6. Okay. Now think about it. Let's say I have, let's say this is the calculate method. Let's say this is a calculate method, and I have one more method called like this: public void sum, and this is it, right? And somehow, right, it will do the summation of this a and b, and okay, it will accept a and b, right, and a plus b, and it will, let's say, print, right, the output. Let's see equals to this, and it will say s out c. Okay, I hope everyone understand this piece of code, right? We are just writing a simple function here or a method here, right? And this is another method. Can I do in JavaScript something like this? Can I, sorry, in Java, right? Can I do in Java something like this, that we know we can provide a and b as a, these are data types, right? Can I pass this sum, which is a function, as a parameter in this here? Can I something write like here, something like this function, and give it a name, some any random name? Can I do this in Java? Anyone who comes from Java background? Can someone please tell me? Can I do this? Can I provide a function as an input to another function signature, right? So if I want to call calculate,
Yes, yes.
I can do that. Okay, how? Can
So
I do
like
can I do something like this
like
in Java?
like
In Java, I'm asking in Java, right?
yes,
Not in
sir.
JavaScript. Okay, yeah, please tell me.
Yes, sir. In Java, we can use like new keyword and like use like just that like in Selenium we use Chrome options or like that
When
kind
you
of.
say new, right, you're calling the instance of the class, right?
Okay, so that is an object.
You're
But again,
creating the object.
that is, see, you can provide data type, right? The classes which you create in Java, right, are like the custom data types. Okay, if you create a class called animal in Java, right, and you create the objects of those classes, right, try to understand, right? Animal, when I say, right, when I think about it, if you create an animal class, let's say class animal, right, and whatever you feel like, you will add the logic and methods over here, right? Whenever you do something like this, animal lion equals to new animal, you do this, right? Right, Harsh? You will write a code like
Yes,
this. Now
yes.
tell me, what does this mean, right? What are you writing here? What does this left side means?
Uh, type lion is type like of animal
But
type.
when you create, let's say you have to create a name variable which will hold your name, what you write? You write something like this, right? String name equals to, let's say, Harsh, right? You will write something like this, right? Or you could write this also, right? Just understand this way. So you will write new string Harsh also, right? You can write this way also, right? Right or no?
Yes.
You can write this, right? So you similar way I've created a string is also a class in Java, right? You know this. String is a class in Java, right?
Yes.
And this is something which is inbuilt. It's an inbuilt class provided to you, right? You did not create this, but it's a class, right? Similarly, you are creating this time another class for you, which is with the name of animal, right? Right. Now tell me, when you created this variable, why did you give string here? Because in Java, you have to define data type
Yes.
for the variable, right? And you're
Yes,
telling
sir.
here that name variable has a type of string. So what values can you assign to name? String type, right? Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Right. Now, similarly, if you see here, right, when you say class, animal, and all this, right, what you're telling here, you're telling that lion would is a type of animal. Okay. You're telling
Yes.
it's the data type of the lion, right? So using classes, we create data types in Java, right? If someone does not know this, please understand this, right? And you will be able to think Java from a different angle now. Okay. You already get a lot of data types, right, provided by Java itself, but you wanted to have your own classes and all. And once you create them, right, think of it like that you're creating a new data type. I just created a data type of animal type, right? And I can create new animals and assign to the new variables, right, which I want to create. So you can see I'm creating a new animal, right, and assigning it to a variable of, with the name of lion. But what is the type? Animal, right? Okay. So again, coming back to your point, right, or this original discussion. So you are saying that you can say new animal here, right? Something like this you can do. But when you can do is if you specify animal here, right? Animal, let's say AB, right? If I have specified this, right? If I have said int A, int B, animal AB, right? Then you can do this. You can say this, right? A56, and then you can say new animal. Then you can say this. I don't mind this, right? But it's not a function, right? It's an object, and it's a data type itself, right? Animal is a data type. That's why it supports, right?
Yes,
Think about
understood.
it and practice it. You will get to know. Okay. But coming back to the original question, can you pass a function to another function here as an argument in Java?
No.
You can't.
No.
Okay. You can't. In Java, at least you can't. So you can't pass a function as an argument, right? In Java, right? So in Java, you can't do this. Similarly, you cannot, okay, if I have to return something from here, right? Let's say return. Okay, let's say I'm calculating, doing some calculations, and let's say I'm saying return, and whatever the value is, A into B and all that, right? So I can return this. This is perfectly fine, right? And accordingly, I have to change the return type, right? Okay, let's say, can I return something like this? Can I say return public int sum A comma B and this? Can I return this with the return keyword here in Java? Can I do this? I want to return a function from a function. Understanding?
I'm not sure about this
No.
access modifier, but I think we can call a function in the return statement.
You can call a function return statement. Okay. Can you write a function within
But
a function?
that function is already declared, I think. When we call a function with return statements, that function is already declared. But here, Akhil is saying that here we are declaring the function also, like public in sum. So I think that is not possible.
No, can't. Okay. So let's say I'm not saying public. Let's say I'm just saying int sum, right? I have to return a function from here. How do you return a function? Let's say, how will you create a function here? Are you saying that you can do sum here? If let's say I have a function, okay, can you create a function within a function? First of all, tell me in Java. Has anyone created that a function within a function? At least I haven't done that.
Neither me.
You
Never
can
came
call, but you cannot create.
You cannot create, right? You cannot
Yeah.
create. You can call it.
Call.
You
Yeah.
can call it. That is not an issue. But you cannot create it, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to call a function, right? You can call a function. A function once called, right, will translate into a return type, right, a data type. And that's why you can put it here, right? If I call return sum 5,6, am I really returning a function? No, you're returning the value evaluated after calling the function. What will be the value of sum 5, 6? Let's say 11, right? So you're returning 11 here. That is doable, right? But can you do something like this, public int sum and all, right? Pass the complete body of the function. Can you do that? You can't.
No.
You can't, right? So try to understand in Java, right? You cannot pass a function as an argument to another function, right? So you cannot do this. You cannot say function and all that, right? You cannot write it here. Second of all, you also cannot return a function from a function, right? You can't do that, right? And now coming to the biggest part, right? The biggest part here is, what if our language, right, allows to do both of them, right? Use the function normally, like how we have seen already, right? Creating a function, calling them, right? One is this thing. Second of all, if the language allows you to pass on a function as an argument to another function, and also, let's say, and another capability is that it also allows you to return a function from a function, then we say that that language supports higher order functions. What do we call it as? Higher order functions. Okay, and this is what we are going to talk about tomorrow, right? And once we understand this part, right, once we'll see the behaviors of it, it will open the doors for us, right, to have a look into the callback functions. What is a callback function? A function which can be called inside a function. Okay, understand the term, right? Callback. We'll talk more about it, right? And it also opens the doors for the asynchronous operations, right, in JavaScript. So this is the most crucial part, right? Which is something very different from other languages, right? Till now, the syntax would be different, but we have learned today, right? But eventually, it is working the same way, right, as other languages do, right? You create a function, you create a body of it, you call the function, right, and it returns something, right? That is what we learned today. We did not see any of this today, but I'm telling you now, right? Because this is like, we have to have the base first. Now we have the base. So now we'll talk about the higher order function. Okay, and that is something which I'll talk tomorrow. And there we'll talk. And once we understand this part, right, both the parts, used as an argument, return function from a function, function from a function. Once we do this, right, then we'll be able to understand this part, and then we'll be able to move ahead towards callback functions and other thing. Okay, let's stop here. I don't have anything else to say. And this is what we are. Okay, about JavaScript. Okay, any question anyone has as of now? No? Then I think we're good. Yeah, please.
Akhil,
Please,
one
Aman.
thing. So here in JavaScript, if we compare constant and let with Java, so constant, can we say it is final keyword and let is like static?
No, let is not static. Let is like a normal variable, right, which you create. Again, in Java, right, you have local variables and instance variable, right?
Yes, yes.
So it depends on the, so what is the difference between the two? The difference is like, those variables are same, right? The way you declare and all. The difference is in the scoping part. If you create a local variable, only inside that method where it's created, it lives there,
Yeah.
right? And if you
Yes.
create an instance variable which is at the class level, so it means all the functions of the class will know about it, right?
Yes.
So the
yes.
scope of that variable is the class, right? Not
Yeah.
just the method. So again, if the way you create those variables, instance variables or local variables, you can consider them to be the same as let. Okay, as of now. Okay,
Okay.
we'll
okay.
discuss more rules around it, but you can understand this way. When I say constant, right? Constant, you can think of like a, let's say, the final variable, right? You created a variable with the final keyword and you have declared the value, and you say, okay, no one will change it.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, if nothing else, I think we're good to wrap up. Let's meet tomorrow and we'll discuss this higher order functions. Okay, I'm sure you're realizing, right? We are moving slowly and slowly, and we are trying to move where the core part of JavaScript, like how it is different, right? And we have already started moving towards it. Tomorrow is like the first class, I would say, where we will see the power of JavaScript, okay? And we are trying to move towards the asynchronous operation, which is like a puzzle to a lot of people out here. Okay, let's meet tomorrow. Bye bye. Good night.
Yeah.
Thanks, Akhil.
Thank you, Akhil. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Right,
Akhil.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.